Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of the X Fan Show After Dark. The A Train, Arlington Lane in the house once again. Hey, folks, make sure that you catch the show on your Roku TVs, Amazon TVs, Amazon Fire Stick. Make sure you go down the app and you can go search Fuel Sports Network. Also, check out the show as always on fuelsportsnetwork.com. I'm not trying to be loud today, but I do want to get the conversation going. Hey, glad to be back once again and to do the X Fan Show on a Wednesday night. If you're looking for Grill Chat Sports, they'll be back on next week, same time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fuel Sports Network. All right. Y'all all know why we're here. If you want to hear from you guys as well. Of course, you see the title. UFL makes its official return for season 2. They did that on yesterday. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting a lot for them. The only big change of sorts you're looking at right now is that they're moving some of those games to Friday nights, which is fine. It's cool. But we kind of spoken about that here on the show. And I definitely I think that it's going to be interesting. I've always wanted to see what Friday night professional football looks like on a weekly basis. You'll have 3 days, I guess, of sorts when you're looking at for football reasons. So they definitely will split them up: one game on one night, 2 games on another night, and one on another. So I expect that happening a lot. What's up? Good evening to you, Kevin. But yeah, that's kind of, I'm like, okay, this is cool and whatnot, but we need some more information. All right, joining me on the program this evening, Dirty is out a little bit. He might chime in on the show as we go along. We get to 10 o'clock here in the Central. But joining me on the program today, you see him on Arena STL on Tuesday nights. And you can catch him sometimes on the Derek King Show, which you can catch Wednesdays right here on Fuel Sports Network. It's the one and only host of the show, Will Freeman. Will, good evening to you, sir. How you doing, man?
Good evening, RG Lane, and welcome everyone to X Fan Show After Dark. And it's a really good, interesting night of a full moon night here tonight, this evening, Arlington.
I know we got a full moon going, and one of the things that we kind of touched based on a little bit before the show was about this whole thing with this return of the UFL. I went on social media on Sunday when I think Daryl Johnston did one of the games. I can't remember which one it was. I couldn't think of it. But it was on social media, and they mentioned him as an NFL on Fox analyst, but nowhere, not one place during the broadcast did you see anything about him saying UFL. I'm like, here we are. This is a league of opportunity. That's what the schedule drop was all about. New season, new opportunities. We're dropping March 28th. What am I missing here? Like, come on. Are we serious right now?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting since we have to remember Fox does have his ownership stake. You would think, like, oh, this is kind of like free advertising, if you will. But yet again, it seems like stuff that seems to be handed just seems to. I don't know why it does that. Like, they get handed some stuff they could get for free publicity, and they just don't execute it. I just don't know. Heck, I don't recall what game Moose did. I just remember the suit that he wore from the pics that I recall. So, and it's just like once again another failed opportunity. It's just like I would like to talk to some of their business people. Like, do you guys not know how to identify some good free publicity here, PR, anything? And it just seems like, nope.
So I guess right now what everybody is checking out is, I think, was it 62 players by count, UFL players that are in the league right now as we speak. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere like that. The latest, of course, is interesting enough. Detroit signed another kicker to the practice squad with Brad Wing. That was the latest one. So now you got technically 2 kickers on the Detroit, along with already with Jake already, who I actually have on my fantasy team, and it's worked really well so far this year.
You know what? And that was a thing that I needed to do, and I made sure I did that. Was put Jake Bates on my fantasy team because see, that's what the thing about y'all on fantasy. You don't know about those little hidden gems. Granted, it is one person, that's making an impact so far with this Detroit Lions. And it looks like it says Brad Williams just re-signed with the Brahmas as well. But that was the one thing that I was like, I wonder if anybody's going to get Jake Bates. And he was sitting there. He was sitting there in the free agency. And I was like, let me go ahead and make that pickup real quick. Also, what's crazy is a guy like a Young Hoku for the Atlanta Falcons, who played spring football with the Atlanta Legends in the Alliance of American Football. So there are, impactful players so far that came from spring football that are playing right now in the league. Of course, we know about the Cavante Turpins, the Brandon Aubreys for the Colts and stuff. But, that's kind of where we are right now. Did I lose him?
I'm back. The full mood's affecting our equipment.
Go ahead, man. It's on you.
Say that again. You kind of froze out there a little.
See, I'm freezing up, and just like he's freezing up on his end.
Yeah.
Googly moogly, man. So this is wild stuff today. All right, but yeah, that full moon is really putting us in a crazy situation right now. But what I'm getting at is seeing guys like Jake Bates over with the Detroit Lions. I picked him up for fantasy just like you did because I know what kind of leg he really has. It was kind of interesting seeing him in that first game. He was very impactful. Second game too, even though they didn't win against Tampa Bay Bucks. But I was like, I'm going to keep Jake Bates on my squad. My biggest fear was, can he kick on the outside? And he did so when he was in Kansas City. And granted, it was a pleasant weather, and it was the preseason, so that's why it was great to see him do that there than it would be in someplace where the wind is swaying one way to the next.
Yeah, like right now it's mostly just the special teams player that's getting like the top billing or that we see so far, though we've still got some players that are kind of like in other special teams role. Of course, I think the biggest impact, of course, like Kevin mentioned, of course, the other kicker, Brandon Aubrey for the Dallas Cowboys. Then you also have, of course, the number one guy on the Dallas Cowboy too. Why am I with Turpin, who's also making plays though. Cowboys are having a big problem right now, but that's something neither here nor there right now. But it's good to see these players like see getting an impact in the league, and that's also another free publicity for the league for the UFL when the commentators mention it. Of course, they have to mention it for and I hate the buffering circle. It's like,
I know the buffering is takes.
and it's good. It's good publicity for the league. Just that the league you'll utilize it and take advantage. That's the one biggest thing I have a big problem with the UFL right now. They just need to utilize whatever they can get free publicity. Doesn't cost them anything and use it.
Especially when it's a league that the network runs. You definitely want to put some of that out there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're going to get the Kurt Menefees and stuff. You get the Joel Klatz because Joel Klatt's big on college football, and I like kind of that setup. I'm thinking where I'm coming from with this league. I was expecting this league to kind of distance itself from the NFL. You all know this. I've spoken about this on plenty of shows here. And I'm going to keep preaching that I'm hoping that the UFL takes that in turn because you're going in major cities, you're trying to find venues to manage this type of league, and it can work in a spring setting. I mean, what's wrong with moving the season up? I know it says March 28th. What was wrong with moving it like 2-3 weeks beforehand. I know I wanted it after the Super Bowl, which a lot of people feel that same way because you keep football going. But since you did not take that route, something like that would have been moved up like right there before, um, right in March. I get it. It's tournament time that you're going up against, and you're dealing with the NBA and the NHL, and you're scheduling yourself right against the start of Major League Baseball, which has gone up in a way of for ratings. If it's not about ratings, then that's going to be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and then like I was a little disappointed too. Like everyone was hoping for like you said an earlier start. I would prefer an earlier start, maybe about end of February, beginning of March. That's how I think it would be better. Of course, it's a little bit more better to just like we already know the start date, but I wish they just announced the whole schedule here. I know what the big problem is right now because they don't want to get out until, of course, we have that one stadium in DC that has the MLS in there, and they're waiting for that schedule to come out before they put all the schedules in there already. They want to also make a big event of it because I think I said it before or somewhere I did. Because everyone wants to make a whole deal about announcing the whole schedule ever since the NFL did a few years back, and they just want to copy it. I know everyone wants to make a big spectacle about it, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Denzel says, I don't know why they just don't run commercials for UFL year round, like on Fox and ESPN, ABC. Well, here's the thing: you do, of course, you want to put that out there, and um, I don't know. I thought it was always about spending money, and they didn't want to do that, And you're looking for a whole new marketing plan of sorts now for season 2 because you want to be better than you did in season 1, right? And I will, to this day, I will say on this show that the 3-time USFL champions are the Birmingham Stallions, and they are the UFL champions to begin with because they did play. I always believe you should count that. I get it. They're 3 times spring football champions, but no, you're part of a whole new league now. So now you are the inaugural UFL champs, and that's that. You have won 3 championships in your conference, or in this case, in your league, which is the USFL. I don't know why we have to combine all the two together or whatnot. The XFL champs are the San Antonio Brahmas, right? That's it, or is that wrong here? Are we looking at it?
No, it's not. It's
Okay,
not. Then, of course, we have to mention too. Of course, now with the scheduling, the Battlehawks technically get a 6th home game because of the scheduling with the Alamo Dome because they actually hold the Final Four and other
that's
events
right.
and they collide. So it's just how that happens. It's like it's weird, but it's gonna like I don't know what other events are happening at the Dome. I'm just glad the damn construction is already fixed, so we're not gonna have that problem this year. So I don't know. Like it's just like I kind of wish like because I've talked to some ticket people and they already got a lot of complaints of fans that they want the whole schedule because that's how they want to plan their stuff. That's the most important thing here because in the spring you have to plan it more because spring wedding season, other type of events goes on there. And dear Lord, my brother actually went to 3 different weddings during that time, and it just like you guys need to get this out so people can plan because I know a few fans that didn't renew because they want the schedule first.
Exactly. And they want to be aware of what is going to happen in the upcoming season. So, come on, man. No, okay, here's my thing. Mike says, why so many people pissed about DC hosting the UFL championship? Seen St. Louis, Canton, and San Antonio to host, so why not? I don't have a problem with that. I get it. A lot of people were very critical of St. Louis hosting the championship. I have spoken on this program about why I believe that they hosted the championship in St. Louis because of weather permitting. It stops all of that. I get it. It's meant to be played in the elements. But also, this is June we're talking about. June is very, very hot. So when you're playing a game of that matter, in that time frame, it looks bad if it plays there, and people are passing out watching the game, and it can be very bad. You keep it indoors, everything is controlled, climate controlled. So that's the reason why I say an indoor venue for this type of game is why they should play it there. I don't have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised with DC, just like you, because I thought they actually would put in Detroit, because that's the other dome in the league. But DC, I kind of see, though, East Coast does have that. I'm back. DC does have that eastern coastal weather, so it might be a little bit better in the DC area. So it's going to be kind of interesting how that happens. And you're back.
Yes.
Dang that full moon. That full moon.
Yeah, that full moon is definitely showing its rearing ugly head tonight. So, uh, but yeah, here's the thing though. I've always been a fan of, if you're going to play games in the summertime, you're going to need a place where it can handle. It has to be played indoors. And we got, like you said, we got 3 venues. Well, now 2 venues that play indoors. One is out for sure due to an event already happening. The second one, we don't really know if there's going to be an event happening during that time period. And the third one that was potential would be these guys, the Michigan Panthers. They don't even know if they're going to even play back. I don't even think they're going to return to Ford Field to play next season. They're going to be potentially looking for another venue to play in because of the massive size of Ford Field and nobody going to those games. Like, you saw the 2 home games that they had for Detroit. That is full-fledged Lions all day, every day, no problem. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that's what the issue lies. And they want to see at least the lower bowl area filled up. And when you have a venue like a Ford Field, you couldn't even get that part filled up. So it looks bearing on your screen when you do that, especially. But I get it. I get where they were trying to go, and it's going to take some time for it to ever get to that point, kind of like what the WNBA is doing right now. You see the impact of Caitlin Clark, and you've seen how some of the smaller venues are like, okay, we can't hold these many people because of the demand to see this individual. I get it. You want to see something like that where an impact player could come in and bring in more tickets. But also, with that being said, you got to make sure that the pay scale is bigger to get an impact player like that.
To answer this question, what neutral site here that Kevin put in? Honestly, I would actually choose Indianapolis in Colt Stadium. That actually would be a better choice, in my opinion, if they wanted to hold there and also
Small
have a few.
Lucas Oil.
Yeah, Lucas Oil. You have the NFL Combine there. It seems like a natural choice to me, but it's just that it's like you have to think about also too, because like as you said, I cover arena football in on another show, and recently on that one, like if they would probably have at a different place if they get paid, because like one of the owners of the Arena Football League said that they would actually hold it at a different place, not the top seed, if they get paid for it. So if some city wants to throw out money to actually have that championship game held in their city, that's probably what would happen. But we just have to go with neutral site there, and I kind of wish it was kind of like top seed, but that could be last minute because we don't have that bye week anymore, like we did back
Well,
in
yeah, I get that, but also at the same time, and David just said it here. The new turf is now part in the dome again, and there's gives an opportunity for more chances at more football games again. No NFL games. Listen, we're gonna stop there about those preseason games. I get what y'all want with those. I get it, but this is more for bringing. It should do is bring the high school games back to the dome for the championship games, and then also to bring in more for Mizzou games, potential Mizzou games, and build off of that. Of course, with the UFL, with the Battle Hawks. that's always a big thing because of how with the audiences. I mean the audiences were each game with that. All right. Kevin said a February start date would have been better, in my opinion. You don't have much to compete with, and by the time you do, the season is practically over. Yeah, and you know what? You're right, because when we saw that with the XFL in 2023, it was not a real big issue. Granted, the play was great. The ratings were not, because again, it was about the trust. There's a trust factor. And because the trust wasn't right, it wasn't quite there like it was back in 2020, because people were curious about it. Then when they saw that it was coming back and it went away for a couple of years, it was like, okay, we'll see. I may watch, I may not watch. Whereas when we got with the XFL in 2020, we were curious to see what the game was going to look like, right? And so when we got it, people was like, okay, it was crummy football at first. Let's be real with ourselves. It was crummy football because we didn't know, but we watched it. And then as the weeks progressed, the game was better, but the ratings had started tanking a little bit. I could have been certain by the time we got to week 10 in that 2020 season, I think those ratings would have came back up because we would have seen a lot better gameplay. And that was the problem in 2023. We had to get past week 5 first, right? To see what that was going to look like. And then when you seen that every game was looking nice, each game, we had a bunch of competitive games in 2023. And so that is what they should have built off of when they seen it. But I, can't say anything other than that.
Yeah, and it just boggles my mind on some of the things that I'm really starting to hate that buffing circle here, Arlington. And just to continue on what, like with the dome, besides the new field, there's actually new lighting, thank goodness too. So it brings a lot more brightness. And Mizzou games, I expect they're going to have the Mizzou Illinois games held at the dome again in a few years. Here's hoping, fingers crossed. It just I lost my train of thought now with the disconnection there. Remind me what we were discussing again.
Basically, what it was talking about, making sure, turnouts and stuff, playing in these different venues and playing
Yeah.
in these local climates and stuff like that.
Yeah, and another thing to just get better advertising, because like word of mouth works wonders, but you still need to do the TV ads. You still need to do radio, local radio into social media. Social media can work as much as you can, but it's like throwing a small net in a big ocean. You have to be at the right spot to find the fish that you're looking for to snatch them. That's how I always think about social media advertising. Word of mouth, being in the local areas, like we saw some of them do at some walks and some type of events that I saw. I think I saw one that the Panthers did recently on social media. I might be thinking of a different one, different franchise as well, because another thing is too, because like you said, like with the facilities getting all the tickets, because just recently the Memphis team, which still doesn't have a head coach as of right now, finally got their deal because of how that construction is at Memphis Tiger Stadium right now. And of course, locally here, we want to know when that game, because St. Louis is going to go to Memphis, and that's a straight down I-55 South 3-hour drive. And a lot of Battlehawk fans are going to be going down to that game, and they might actually get a sellout.
I mean, there's a great chance you get a lot of Battlehawks fans to take that 3 hour, that 3.5 hour journey down there, because it goes back to what says here with Kevin. He said Lucas Oil could work. Yeah, because there is no Indy team, and it's a 3.5 hour drive. I made that drive for week 1 of the NFL season when they played against Houston. So that could work. And yes, the marketing has not been the best. Packing games all season long is going to be the big. That's the hang up. Is getting fans into these games because, one, they want to make sure they know who these guys are, right? You got to know who these guys are, because other than who we know on the Battlehawks, those that came back from the 2023 season, AJ McCarron, of course, the big name in this case for the UFL, of course, Adrian Martinez, who was coming over from Nebraska, right? He made himself a name in this league this past year. So you got people to build off of. John Drake Kirkland, who is a standout, he's returning to the San Antonio Brahmas. And so those are the guys that I really believe the UFL should build around, because this is, like you say, it's a league of opportunity. These guys just want to play football. And I know the NFL is the biggest entity to go to, but if they can't get there, there's some place they can go and play to be a part of. You know what I mean? And then it'll be stars for them in that league. And who cares if they say, hey, they had the cups of coffee with the NFL, but they can be stands out in the UFL. That builds their history. And that's what I wanted to see with this UFL. I wanted to see that with the XFL and USFL before they merged. Like, they'll be it's their own entity. You don't need, it's still, I'm saying this, that you don't need the UFL. I mean, you don't need the NFL's help. This is about building a league in its own right. And I don't think when you have NFL heads that's working in a startup league, they think NFL more than they think their own. We want to see about these people getting to the NFL, because that's the only way that this will work. I really believe that should have never been the headspace to begin with.
Yeah, it's priorities here. Like you said, like, they got some NFL people, and probably somewhere on the other parts of the football world too. You got collegiate and other sorts of alternate leagues too. Like, I do believe we still have some CFL people working in the league. I just can't recall which positions, because they just need to, like, okay, we can't think like we're the NFL. We need to think about that we're our own thing. I just think that's what's lost of them right now. They need to get in the mindset, okay, we need to do this to get the word out. We need this in order to increase not only, like, viewership on TV, of course, that's important, but also increase the people that want to go to games as well. Like, here's St. Louis, we're fine. That's the easiest one. Memphis, that does a little bit of work, because right now the problem is no head coach. They're interviewing right now, just don't know who it is. It could be, I don't know. Someone put a picture of a possibility of Jim Haslett. I'm not confirming that's him or not. That's like an example and stuff like there. It's just that they need to start getting the go running here, just in order to do this. Even though the start date is pushed back, it's not, if it was in February, there might be a little bit of problems, but now that's at the end of March. It's kind of a little bit better. They just need to start getting the ground a little bit more.
And yeah, I saw Kevin's post. He said, I'm afraid for St. Louis fans, I think AJ is not going to return. I'm going to agree with him, because I think after what we witnessed and what was said in his last game against San Antonio, in the last game against the San Antonio Brahmas, he's really banged up now. And a lot of people, if you go onto his social media, there hasn't been much of anything Battlehawks, and it was at one point. Is back to Bama. So to say that he is likely done is, we won't say that. We'll let him be the person that makes that assumption. But it really looks like that he won't return. But I would love, truly, truly love to see him stay with the league and be there in some coaching aspect. Whether it's working with just the quarterbacks, whether it's working as an offensive coordinator, whether it's there's always the potential of him playing somewhere else. I'm not saying that he is, but that leads to, there's always something other than where he's at right now. So just keep up with him and see where he can go somewhere down the line. Um, David says, I like that the UFL schedule will include some Friday night games. Well, of course, for Fox's case,
Yeah.
Fox doesn't have any programming on Friday nights except college football, which is probably going to save them for the rest of this year. I feel bad for news outlets. Should I feel bad for them?
Nah.
Because
No. Don't.
but
No.
if they do it right, if you do it right, you start the games at 6 o'clock on Friday nights. You just take away the 6 o'clock newscast. That way you have the 9 and 10 o'clock for when the game ends. That's what I think. You should start the games at 7 Eastern, go 7 to 10, and I think you'll be better off that way. But
And
that's just me.
yeah, Fox also like they need to start going like the Friday night football type of advertising. Get like I don't know if it would be technically the game of the week because until we know what the Friday games are, I would like to know what the Friday night games are like. Who starts it? Because if they do start it with the with the championship team with the Birmingham Sounds defending champions first, I think, of course, down in Birmingham they would prefer a night game. Might work for them. So that could be kind of good. It just depends who they put on the Friday night games because there's going to be a home one in St. Louis. Of course, it depends when that's going to happen, how the scheduling's going to go with that. Tailgating's going to go down a bit unless people get the day off of that, which is possible. But it just depends. I want to see how this experiment works. Though, what are the in between the NFL and the UFL season? What's going to fill that Friday night slot? College basketball?
Well, I would think so. I would think that, or you have some filler programming that they love to do on Friday nights. You have programming that's pretty much like throwaways, and they can just throw it on a Friday night in between the time where college football ends and the time where the UFL picks it back up. I think they just throw filler programming in. College basketball could do the trick on Friday nights, but I think you just throw in some kind of David. I'm gonna get to that in just a second. I'm gonna get to that comment. He just threw it out there. Perfect. But I think they're gonna just fill some time, with different programmings until they get to the March 28th start date. Kevin says here, I think Anthony Blevins should get the head coaching job in Memphis because he got screwed over with the Vegas job. I agree with that.
He's a possibility.
He did get his championship with the Birmingham Stallions coming over late. I think it's pretty much ancient history, but Coach Beck should have benched AJ for the XFL championship game. I think everybody in St. Louis agrees with that, but not a lot of people were high on Manny Wilkins. And plus, I think AJ wanted to really see if I think AJ had more control over it than many people would believe. AJ might be the Battlehawks head coach if Beck doesn't return. Beck may take the college head coaching job. He did not return to coach the Battlehawks. That's an interesting thing. I don't know. I think Beck liked the job, but there's some behind the scenes stuff that is going to have to work out for him to continue on. How is tailgating going to work on Fridays? I like that question. I think a lot of people had said that the minute that the league announced that it was going to be Friday games. You have to understand, a lot of people are getting off of work 5, 6, 7 p.m. And you're going to really challenge. Tailgating goes for a long period of time. So that means you're not really looking out for the fans like you say you are. Fans want to tailgate. Fans want to go out, get set up, grill some food, and bring the fans together and do that. And it's like you're kind of taking away that opportunity because people cannot just jump off of work and saying, hey, we go into a game and we're going to tailgate. That takes prep. That's a lot of time. And you're going to have, I get it, it's one time per week, Saturday and Sunday, that there's a possibility that, but it feels like you're kind of taking that away. You're taking that away from them.
Yeah, and it just depends who. The only Friday I said someone mentioned this is the only Friday that might not be a problem is Good Friday. That is the most obvious one that might have the least.
I don't know.
And yeah,
I
and
don't know.
like people want to grill. Some people like the only other way for people to solve this problem too is like I've seen some people like order pizzas and have it delivered down the tailgate area sometimes, which you can do that, bring it from somewhere else if you don't want to grill. Though I am kind of wondering how Rick Story's going to plan this for the Friday night game, home game for the Battlehawks. So that will be interesting in the near future. Uh,
And right, how many Battlehawk games are going to be home games uh for the season? You know what was crazy about this past UFL season for the Battlehawks was that um all the games, I think all the games were network TV games. I think nine of them, nine of the 10 games were network television games, right? And then I liked how they alternated home road. I mean, there was away home, away home, away home, all the way down.
yeah, and it just and like you said, like all the network games and stuff. Also, the question is, remember, six home game with the Brahmas. We faced them twice in St. Louis. Will that both of those be network games as well?
Exactly, exactly. And so it's going to be interesting. Oh my gosh. Says Kevin saying starting the season on Good Friday is not a good idea. Remember how opening weekend was attendance wise last season? Yeah, it was brutal, quite brutal. And here's the thing: there are fans that want something different, and these days we're getting these reboots, revivals, and stuff on television
Oh
so
yeah.
much, and it's getting out of control that we can't get anything original. And that's what I was thinking that where we could go with the UFL. You know, the NFL is now using the XFL's kickoff. You know, and the dynamic kickoff has worked in some capacity. We've had a touchdown. I think we had it in the opening week with the Arizona Cardinals. So that's my thing, man. It's like the originality. This should have been that for the UFL. This should have been that, and it wasn't.
Yeah, and believe, trust me, there throughout the whole entertainment industry with all these reboots and stuff, and like some of them work, some of them do not, and it just like originality. Like I do see some originality coming back a little bit. It's some aspects and that it does work as well, but there's also retooling, if you will, would be better. Of course, another thing is like now does the UFL take what was the now the current NFL kicked off, now formerly XFL kicked off to this next season? Because that was one thing that was asked by Daryl Johnson at one of the Bowhawks events last year. Like he said that he had to consider it. Do they do that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's thanks, Chris. Thank you. I definitely got that for you. You know, we got that week one matchup, as you can see with the Panthers and the Battlehawks there. Um, you know what? I'm, I am really like floored, you know, with this league, man. And you know, I just like everybody in here, we want to see this league succeed. We wanted to see it go to greater heights. It does not have to be bigger than the NFL, but it can be right there as a professional football league because it's not like they're going against the NFL. You're not going against the conglomerate. You're going in the spring. This is a league. I get it, it's an opportunity, but like I said earlier in the show, this is supposed to be a league different from the NFL. And why is that we can't have that? We have to be exactly or close to the NFL. The 1.2 point 3 point opportunities are phenomenal. You know what I mean? It gives a different form of strategy to the game. And I would have been a fan of keeping the game closer. If that's the case, then we keep the game closer to college football then.
Yeah,
You
of
know what I'm
course with
saying?
the rules because they did go to the 2 feet rule if I recall, so they're not doing the 1 foot rule.
Yeah,
Some
they kind of
yeah,
go ahead.
because college football. Because when I watched the Mizzou game last weekend, I was like, wait a minute, when did college football get a 2 minute warning? They have a 2 minute warning now. Even I was like, what the hell? And it just like try to do something new because like mostly what we're going to be probably see new is probably technology wise and stuff. We already see the NFL already adapting how the UFL does with the interviews and stuff. We saw some more of that currently with this NFL season, and it just like they need to start trying to do some innovation to just be different. Like you don't need to be copy and paste of the NFL. Like you try to do something different. There's nothing wrong with it. Like nothing wrong thinking outside the box. You don't need to do the same thing, just be stale and bland. You just don't need to do that. Be creative. Like the only thing we're probably seeing creative is more like, the football plays because that's always evolving with the type of offensive styles, defensive styles. So it'll be interesting to see how, especially whoever the Memphis coach is, like what does he or anyone bring into the table to his style of play that he chooses. So it's going to be interesting.
Moose said if the NFL keeps the XFL kickoff, then the UFL will adopt it back in season 2. You should just go ahead and adopt it now. It doesn't even matter. Just go ahead and adopt it now because it was a part of the game, and that's what it should be for the UFL by itself. Expansion 2025, we hope. If not, 2026 for sure should be expansion at some point, for the UFL. Yes, exactly. Its own entity. That's what the UFL should be. Should not be anything other than its own. Yes, Denzel, I know. No, I don't think many people did go for 3 points during the season. I think Birmingham was probably the only squad that did really do that. But there was the strategy within it, of going for 3. I understand when they had with Seattle with June Jones, it was a major thing, but also he slowed that stuff down too, because at certain points, 3 points wasn't needed, even though he had the right personnel to make it happen. Yes, of course, the 2 minute timeout, we understand, because that definitely was something we used to get a kick out of. The funny thing is the NFL is literally stealing spring football innovations and trying to call it their own. Exactly.
It's like the Sky Cam with the original XFL. It's like they're used to doing this. it's they've been doing this for decades, stealing things from other ideas.
I don't think it's that they don't want innovation. It's that they believe, you know what? Okay, then fine. I'll stick with that. Then yeah, they don't want innovation. That was an XFL thing. And my thing with it was, even with the XFL could have been its own entity. But but we're here now as a merger, as a merge group. And so because of that, now you should look to innovate somehow to make the game a little better than it is right now. Right? You don't do too much to it because you got majority of the game plan as it is right now. Right? So at this point, you want to see what could bring excitement to the game. I'm not saying you need flaming fireballs. You don't need all that type of stuff. You just want to have great football throughout. They call it the NFL's petri dish. You can say that of sorts, but I look at it as the league itself can be special, and having a league where you go for 1 or 2 or 3 points without having an extra point kick. Okay, cool. You got your field goals, you got your punts, you got your kickoffs, right? The kickoff itself with the with the XFL would be perfect with the league again. So it's like you have the ingredients. Now you can use them. and do something to make the game a bit better. You can have 4-point field goals if you want to beyond 50, because you're starting to see now, Will, that more kickers are kicking long field goals and they're doing it with ease.
Yeah, and I still wish, like, years ago, when back in the old days of the show here, like, I kind of wanted to, like, adopt, like, kind of an arena football rule. If the ball goes through the uprights behind him kicking there, and be like, get like a deuce, like 2 points or something there, and have the ball go on like the 10-yard line. I thought that would actually be cool, but I don't know if they're going to do that. It would be fun. It'll give some kickers a way to get their kicking power tested throughout all the games through the season. But that's just me. And it just like I just want to see something different. One thing that they could do is like we already have some coaches mic'd up. We already have players mic'd up. I actually would like to see the officials mic'd up during the challenge and stuff, see how that discussion goes. Beside, like, not just during the whole like challenge, during the challenge, reviewing it, all that stuff, because we already got the whole sky cam thing already with the sky judge and all that stuff. Like, because it would just be interesting to see the conversation between the officials and the coaches sometimes. Of course, some of them will probably have to be bleep out at some point. Unfortunately, that's how it goes, unfortunately. So, like, try to do some other things too, just to make the game more entertaining. And I don't know, like, I think the clock, maybe, like, it's still 40 seconds. I still think I know the AF did it, like, with 35 seconds. Maybe make that a little bit shorter, but we got a lot of stuff. There's still like a lot of things they could try out. Do something
If I'm not
different.
mistaken, the XFL back in 2020, their play clock was what, 30 seconds or
Something like
shorter than
maybe
that?
possibly like that was the one thing, get the game going and stuff, because ad breaks with the UFL wasn't too bad. It's still nothing as bad as the NFL games, but it just like they just need to do some type of stuff, and like and just be more creative to get more, like, we already know about, you got some of the casuals, and of course the people that root for the teams and locally. They need to start attracting more of the national base here. Of course, it's kind of hard right now, because right now the teams are mostly in the Midwest to the east, because we just don't, there's nothing yet West Coast as of yet, but that's going to take time for it to build.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I would say to that avail that, um even with, I don't know, I don't you don't want to make it too gimmicky, like how
Yeah.
XFL 2001 was, you know.
We
I
ain't,
think they
yeah, if
did
we're
a
not doing that whole fighting for the ball thing ever again that caused a lot of
no,
injuries, we ain't doing anything like
no,
that.
no, no. But 4-point field goals, I would not mind having, beyond 50, 55 yards out, you know. It's a great chance to see if you can score, from afar. But like these, or 60 yards out. For the simple fact of the matter is, like you said, these kickers now, their legs are getting longer. Like when we've seen with Jake Bates, hitting a 64-yard field goal that he did indoors, mind you, not with any wind. He did it indoors, and he was able to nail it perfectly. Like he could have went to 70 if he needed to. Yeah, I like that. 60 yards and out for 4 points. Go for that. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that actually would be quite interesting. Like it still bogs my mind for 50-yard or 3 points. If you get like a distance that no one really reaches or tries or attempts, it should be more. It
Yeah.
should be.
And that was with the big rule changes. Um, the overtime rules I like, where you get a setup where you get a point or 2 points or whatever if you score, um, on a 2-yard line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and we know, Kevin. We not
but
saying
trust
that
me, yeah,
that's
no.
just gonna happen. We don't want to see that in the game at all, man. Um, is it just don't adopt the one onside punt rule? No, I don't think they want to do that. I couldn't have the clock continue to run under 2 minutes unless if less they adopt it like what college football does. Is that what you discussed? Is that what you mean, Ted? Um, if you don't get a first down, I think they did that. The clock stopped when you got a first down, but it didn't stop if you were short. The only way the clock would stop, you had to get a first down. Didn't they do that during this past year?
Sounds familiar because it's still like clock stops if you get the ball out of bounds, incomplete.
Yeah,
And yeah, and also another like would like them to adopt something from the arena football world is that if they can't get the ball forward, the clock continues. Like if someone gets a sack and stuff, the clock continues and all that stuff. It just keep it on going and stuff like that. So
exactly. Yeah, I would not mind that, one bit. Like it keeps the game interesting. Said leave out the NFL's touchback. Yeah, you know what? And even if there is a touchback, you start the ball off on the 40, or even with the fourth down conversion. I think it should be you shouldn't have to onside kick. If you're behind, I don't even think you should kick at all. It should be an automatic 4th and 12, or you kick the ball off automatic,
yeah,
or fourth
the
and
game
15, something like that.
it does seem that the football game itself is trying to phase out the onside kick. I have seen the last few years. I think they're still trying to do that. So it just like I slowly see the onside kick just fading into existence in the coming years. I just see that because like I don't know what the injury count was for onside kicks because I know it happens, but even I'm like, what's the statistics for injuries during onside kicks? So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens there. And like the 4th and 12, yeah, though I swear heard of a 4th and 16 somewhere. Uh
I don't
and
say
just try
anytime during. I don't think anytime during
not
the
any
game. I
time, no.
I really believe just if you're behind and you score. If you score, you should just go ahead and say 4th and 12. I'm going for it. Keep the ball. Uh,
Yeah.
like that's all I can see to that at this point. I can't. If you're trying to phase out this whole thing with the onside kick from potential injuries and stuff, hey, we going when you say we going for it, fourth and 12, 4th and 13. I know it was 15 in the XFL and stuff. 13, I would be cool with. It's right there, 12 or 13 in the middle. Make it just a tad bit harder. I get it. 15 is hard, but you know, you got 4th and 10, 4th and 15. You go in the middle. I say 13 because it's 12 and a half. 13 is just. Okay. I would go with that and see if you can make it work for 13 yards. And then if you can't, of course, they get the ball back and they can do whatever they want to do with it. There was a rule, I think it was during 2020, where they were trying to keep guys from just kneeling the ball down. What was
Yeah.
that rule? Do you remember that in 2020? Does anybody, if anybody in the chat, you remember the rule? They were trying to keep the game going where you couldn't just kneel the ball down right away because it happened in the XFL last year. And they did it again with the UFL. I cannot remember because remember Oliver Luck in 2019 was like he wanted to make sure that the game was the game and that it continued and it didn't just end when you were
It,
ahead. You had to keep playing.
it sounds familiar type of deal because I like just the court just any player kneeling and that type of thing does get kind of boring because of course I know that of course we know that there has been sometimes that Corbell kneels the ball or like just takes
Was it
it.
just that you just couldn't kneel? You couldn't kneel at all. You had to play on. Was it that one?
Maybe of course there has been sometimes that the quarterback gets the ball and like has it for 4 seconds and then kneels it then of course the defender's like, what the heck is this guy doing? I'm going to tackle the quarterback right now. So it's just like, I don't know. The no kneel rule would be interesting. I'm just trying to see what it would do. It like benefits, of course, but it just like I think they just want to make sure the ball just keeps going forward, not back. That's what it seems like to me with that rule.
Yeah, it just gets, it'll just get wilder and wilder. And you know what? I want to see sidebar. I want to see if the XFL gets mentioned in the Mr. McMahon documentary that's coming up literally next week. Next week, Wednesday, is when that drops on Netflix. Make sure I get the Netflix together because it's going down next week. But it said make points the tiebreaker. No. I didn't even like that rule during the freaking XFL 2023 season. But you see how we have these different rules from the times in spring football. Wow. It just seems like now modern spring football is just an experiment instead of it being a real thing. And I think that's the thing that we get sick and tired of is let's stop making it an experiment and let's make this an ongoing thing where people that just want to play the game of football, they may not have a great chance of making the NFL. If they do, all the best to them. But making a league where it is worthy and worth it, where you can sit back and say, hey, I was a part of a special league, a part of a special group of people that believed in me and wanted to see my talents in this UFL. Because the NFL, their coaches, they have a certain mentality, a certain system that they want from their players. And if they don't fit that mold, they're not a part of that team. I hate that. If they can bring something to the table, you would find a way to put them in on the team. But it's so many people. They're trying to make it. He said the OT. See, and that's the thing. I don't need OT shootout being in the NFL. I don't need it there. The NFL has their OT rules. Spring football has theirs. I don't need it to go on over there. That's what we keep saying. All these innovations that spring football puts together, the NFL wants them. They use it for their training ground. And that's what I've seen on tweets beforehand. Tired of that. It should never have to be that at all. Yeah. I just don't see it working, and I don't see it happening, man. Oh my goodness, we had a good show.
Yeah,
we've had a good one tonight, and we was able to finish it in an hour's time, man. Anything before you go, Will? Before we get out of here,
I'm just hoping that they come up with some news real soon, because the news that we're hoping to hear is like, we know there's going to be some type of draft probably coming up soon. We still don't have a date for that. Memphis head coaching hiring and what his staff will be. And maybe just like for all the teams here, do some stuff more locally too. Have some local events, not just for season ticket holders. We know they're going to have that. Get some more local promotions out there and just like increase it. I know St. Louis doesn't have that problem, but Birmingham needs it, Memphis needs it, a lot of the other franchises needs it.
So more local marketing, and make sure that y'all stay within in the local markets, because you need to build this league up. All right, we're about to get up out of here. Thank you, Will, for jumping in and chiming in. We've had a good night. Thanks to all the fans that jumped in on the show at such a last minute. Y'all are great, because we can throw this show on late and y'all are here. So we do appreciate that. Will, definitely catch you again on Arena STL, man. Keep doing your thing. And I'm the A Train. Catch me Friday with the A Train show. We're back again at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 12 in the Central. And we're going to kick it in with some more wrestling and get you ready for some football on Saturday and Sunday. All right. So just for a little while, this is the A Train signing off. Hey, thanks to our great sponsors over at Just Meat Jerky. W Energy Powder McDougal Bats, Royal Retros, True Victory Apparel, and this. And this is how we'll close out the program. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, Philip Johnson, Salon and Spa.